This video is for educational purposes and was created in conjunction with Eugene Springfield Fire and local stroke survivors. This video is intended to educate healthcare personnel from the stroke survivor's perspective. For any questions related to this video or stroke, please contact us via email at strokecenter@peacehealth.org.
Good morning. I'm Jonathan Hayes. I'm here this morning with some guests that have opted to honor us with their presence and answer some questions for us and kind of share some experiences that they have had. Our guests this morning have suffered a stroke, and they're here to talk to us about what that experience is like so we can have some insight from the patient's perspective. As EMS responders, we often respond to calls, and then once we make the transition from the ambulance over to the emergency room or the doctors, we don't often have a chance to get any feedback about how our patients turned out, what the outcome was or anything like that. So this is going to give us an opportunity to kind of see what our actions, how our actions were able to have a positive impact. All right, our guest this morning is Lars Svanovic. He suffered a stroke on 12/18/2009. And again, he's been gracious enough to come and talk to us about that experience this morning. So Lars, the first question that I had for you is, what do you remember about the day leading up to your stroke?
I don't think I remember, but I had the stroke in my bed. And Springfield Fire Department came to my rescue.
Yeah, it's probably kind of interesting waking up or seeing all these guys in your room. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. No, I think that I didn't feel anything, and I didn't have a arm pain or a leg pain and I think I was conscious, and they whisked me away in an ambulance.
Whisk you away in our chariot, yes. I've done that to some of our patients from time to time.
Yeah.
Our next guest is Ms. Shirley Howell. She experienced a stroke on 4/15/2017. We were just discussing how we think that the IRS has something to do with her stroke. I know they make me feel like, sick all the time. But we're here, she's gonna share some of her experiences with us about her stroke and, kind of the aftermath of that. So what do you remember about the day of your stroke?
I remember every single solitary second.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know I had a stroke until like a day and a half later, and I'm like, I think you had a stroke.
Oh.
Because I woke up, it was Saturday morning. I tried getting out of bed, and I was so dizzy I could hardly stand. And that was the only symptom I had.
Wow, dizziness.
Dizziness,
So we had
extreme.
We had a nurse here for a very long time, Nurse Karen Anderson, and for our academy, she always has what she called Karen's words of wisdom, and it was 7 of them, and one of them was that any person experiencing dizziness is having a stroke until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And that I don't want to say I'm glad you said that, but your case accentuates that because
Right.
someone being dizzy, that could be the only symptom that they're having.
Which now they've added that to the word, because it's be fast now, so the B
Right.
at the beginning is for balance. But back when I was, it was only the 4 symptoms.
Right.
And that was it. It's all I was trained for. So when I just woke up dizzy and stayed dizzy, I was just like, I had no idea what went on, but I didn't go to the hospital.
Oh.
I went to the gym fair instead.
Went to the gym fair. Oh, okay. So did you eventually go to the hospital by ambulance, or did you just go see your primary care physician?
Yeah, I contacted her. Sunday night was the first time that I really knew it was a stroke, because I had gotten up during the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I came back and I fell right in front of my bed. And I knew how to get up, but I couldn't get my body to get up.
Right.
It wasn't happening. I sat there for like 5 minutes going, okay, I know this is what I need to do. This is what I need after that. I could go through the steps. but I couldn't follow through. So I just sat there for 5 minutes, and then Monday, to show you how ornery I am, called my doctor, primary care. She didn't work on Monday, so I got an appointment for Tuesday. So I actually just waited and went to the doctor on Tuesday when I had the stroke Friday night sometime.
Oh, wow. And did
Yeah.
she have you transported to the hospital from her office?
No, she referred me to a neurologist, and I went in 5 days later, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, 5 days later, I had the MRI, got the news that I had a stroke and where it was. And then it took me 2 months to be able to get in to see a neurologist.
Wow.
So yeah, mine was totally weird, even in the sequence of things, because I know if you go to the hospital, they do this test, this test. I had none of that. And I know most of it was probably my fault. I should have gone in once I really knew. But that's just me.
Oh, what? No, I never thought that. So is there anything that you would like anyone to know particularly about your experience, or like what did you learn about the experience that you'd like to pass on to others?
I think the biggest thing that I would pass on to anybody is if you even don't think it's a stroke, go to the hospital, because I could have gotten all those tests earlier and maybe they could have found out where my stroke came from, because 2 months later they had no idea. And the other biggest thing is that you don't always have the standard stroke.
Right.
And I'm using standard kind of loosely.
Right.
But you're used to seeing right neglect or left neglect or
Right. Facial
some
droop or
other.
slurred speech. Right.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that I had a stroke just because I was so dizzy I couldn't stand up?
Right. Well, hopefully our crews will, since that was, again, something that
Yes.
we were taught along the line that is something that you absolutely treat as a stroke until you
Yeah.
are able to rule it out. So.
But you have to have a client that's willing to go into the hospital and
Well,
get checked
we
out
can be
first.
pretty persuasive. I'm actually, I'm Big John. We have a giant John who's bigger than me.
Oh, my.
And then we have some normal sized Johns. And so we can be persuasive. We have to call
Yeah.
in the muscle, It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, man, we gonna, but yeah, sometimes ornery patients can be a challenge. But
It's my best quality.
right, you're like, oh, well, you can be ornery all the way to the hospital. It'll be fine as long
But
as
I
you're
mean,
going to the
that's the
hospital.
biggest thing is, people go, you didn't go to the hospital? And there was a part of me that says you need to go.
Right.
But I think there's another part of me that I have plans today. I wanted to go to the gym
I got
show.
things to do. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So-
that's something else that's important is that, you absolutely have the right to refuse. And that's something that is kind of tricky. As a patient, if you can answer certain questions to show that you're not altered, then you have the right to refuse treatment.
Yeah.
But our crews are trained to recognize those anomalies and really encourage you to go to the hospital. Like as far as even calling family members or calling the doctor saying, hey, doc, this is what I have. We really think she should come in and be seen, but she doesn't really want to come in. She doesn't know if she needs to. And we actually hand you the phone in the ER doc or somebody say, hey, listen, and try to encourage you to come in. And so, we try very hard to get people to the hospital that need to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I say I never called 911, so that was, that was
Right.
on me.
Right. But,
And
had
that's-
you called and we
had
came
I
out
called,
and
yeah.
you'd have been like, well, I don't know if I really want to go, we would have tried to encourage you to go.
Yeah.
So we get
And
called.
it probably would have been a good thing. But
Right. We get called all the time. That's something else a lot of that I've heard often from patients in the field is that, I didn't want to call you because we didn't want to bother you. And it's like, you have no idea how many calls we get for things that probably could have been handled at an urgent care or, I don't know, with a Band-Aid.
Right, right.
So we get called. This is what we do. This is what we love doing. And so we don't ever want people to hesitate
Right.
to call, because if you'd have called us and we came out and checked you out and everything was fine, then nothing's lost.
Right.
But, if a crew to come out and assess you, they may have recognized something that you didn't know. And then they could have given you that information and then encouraged you to go to the
Right.
hospital.
Right.
So don't be afraid to call us when you need us. That's what
Yeah.
we do. That's what we like to do.
So, I mean, that's the biggest, one of the ones is, don't think to yourself, I'm going to be fine. Call. And then say the other one is to realize that there are so many different strokes because of the part of the brain that it hits.
Right.
That standard doesn't mean anything with a stroke.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and coming out and sharing your experience with us. We're going to be better because of it. If there's something that we can do to help you out in the future, please let us know. I mean, I'm not just talking about taking you to the hospital. If you need something else, we would certainly like to start enriching our relationships with, you weren't one of our patients, but You're one of our community members, so that still counts. So, you know, if there's something we can do, please feel free to reach out to us.
And actually, if I have another 10 seconds, I was put on blood thinners because I possibly had a TIA. And they go, well, the baby aspirin isn't really good enough. We need to put you on blood thinners. 8 months later, I found out that I did not have AFib, that I didn't have AFib. I went through the loop recorder and all that stuff. So I'm off blood thinners now, but I did have a TIA during the time I was transitioning off of one onto another.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, follow up because folks.
Listen to your body.
Right. And I will tell you that folks that have TIAs are more likely to have a stroke or have another stroke. And so that's something you really have to stay on top of.
Yeah.
So if you feel badly, call us
Yep.
or call your doc and we'll get you taken care
Yeah.
of. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if it's something we can do, let us know.
I will.
All right.
I'll call you next time.
There you go. Call me. That would be a help for everybody.
Yes.
Our next guest in the studio is Drew. His wife, Randy, is also here, Mr. and Mrs. Smeckel. We're here to talk about Drew's stroke that he experienced on April 7th, 2016. First, I'd like to thank you for being here and being willing to talk to us about this. It's going to help us help us be better providers and kind of give our providers some insight as to your side of it. When we come in on these EMS calls, we don't have a lot of contact. It's the initial contact, the transport to the hospital, and we rarely have an opportunity to find out, you know, the outcome of our patients. So we really appreciate you coming out this morning.
I appreciate it.
All right, so what do you remember about the day leading up to your stroke?
Well, not much really. I mean, it happened at night. The night beforehand was a typical night. At the time, I was jogging a couple times a week, and I went for a 6-mile jog the night before. Felt fine, nothing out of the usual. And that was not a long jog. It was my normal jog that I do. And then in the middle of the night sometime, I didn't feel anything, but I felt I needed to go to the bathroom, which wasn't out of the ordinary also, and I tried to get up and I couldn't. And so my wife realized that when she tried to ask me a couple questions, she couldn't understand what I was saying. It was all garbled. And so for some reason she knew something was wrong. And when I tried to get up and couldn't, she knew that she better call you guys. Okay. And so that's about all I remember of the night. I don't remember you guys coming, going to the hospital or anything like that. I think for me, a good thing I don't remember.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And so it's probably enriched in her mind as far as every single moment. But she's been a wonderful help to me throughout my career or my recovery. Okay. And I think every person that's had one needs someone like that because it's something that unexpected, and the things that I used to be able to do myself, now I need help doing. I've been really well. I did a talk at church, and it went really well. And when I found out about this, I thought, yeah, I need to do this, because when you just look at me, you can't see that there's anything wrong. There's no, until I start talking or if you see me walking. And so to help you guys out is something I think I need to do. And so I'm enjoying this. Right. I'll enjoy it when it's done, let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. No, these lights are hot. Well, we appreciate it, and we can certainly tell it's amazing, you know, that you've progressed with just your will and hard work and support from your wife. Is there anything else that you'd like others to know about your experience?
It can happen to anybody. I mean, you can lessen your chances. But like I said, I was a runner. I was not overweight. I had low blood pressure. I was on the young side. It can happen at any age, but it seems like the older you get, the more it happens. And so I wasn't in any of those categories that said you might have a stroke.
Right.
But I think about half of them that have strokes don't fit that. So it's not like I'm out of the normal, it's just that they couldn't pin why I had one.
Right.
And so I was chosen.
Yeah.
I didn't choose it, it chose me. And so there's this is a wonderful group or area to have a stroke because the hospital is well trained in it. We've got a hospital here that is trained for stroke recovery. There's the university that's got a wonderful program that I go through for speech that I go through, and I work with students one-on-one, and so it's been a great help to that. The support group that you got in contact with me at is for stroke survivors, and we meet once a month, and anybody's welcome. And so what this is for you guys, but also for people that have strokes that need a support group, because that's really important to know that you can come to a place, you don't have to explain anything, we all been there, and you can fit right in as much as you want. We have guest speakers that come and tell about different areas of stroke and everything else, and so it's really quite a fun group. They've helped me a lot. The one thing they had a support come in, did watercolors, and had me ask us to draw something about your stroke. And most people drew the things about where they wanted to be, in the way and everything else. I drew a picture of my brain.
Yeah.
And so I'll show you at the end. I got the shirt on. I'll show you what it looks like. And it's the two halves of my brain, the one that's affected and the one that's not affected. So before we go, I'll stand up and show you that. But over the last couple of years, the one thing you learn is patience, because the things that you used to do take time now. And so I've never been a good person to wait. And so it's taught me a lot about just take your time. It's not going to go away, so just take your time to get there. You just got to plan ahead a little bit more.
Right.
As far as recovery, like I said, I was blessed that it happened in this community.
Right.
And so it's really good.
All right. Well, again, we want to thank you for your time. You have an amazing story, and I know it's still being written.
Yeah,
You're the
it
author, and
is.
I'm glad to see that you are making it into a success story.
I'm trying to, and I'm trying to give whatever I can help to those around me that may be having the same problems.
Right. I think it could be an inspiration for sure. All right. So thank you for your time.
Okay.
And we wish you the best.
Okay, thank you very much.
you. Mrs. Smeckel, Randy Smeckel, is here. She's going to give us some insight to how it felt for her husband going through this experience. She just noticed that during the night he was kind of tossing and turning more than normal and making some interesting sounds. But when she recognized that something was wrong, and so she acted on that, which is something that we're really trying to get out to our community when they notice certain behaviors. That they need to call 911 and not just brush it off. So your swift action certainly helped out with a positive outcome for Drew. So if you would, just kind of fill us in on what do you remember about the day or the night leading up to his stroke?
Well, the day leading up to the stroke was one of those beautiful April days. It was like in the 70s, and we were at our daughter's high school track meet, and it was just a regular normal day. We got home from the track meet, and Drew went for a jog and came home, and we went to bed. And about 3:30 in the morning, I was awakened and noticed he was kind of trying to move or tossing and turning, and I asked him if he was okay. And he responded, but didn't make any sense. It was noises. It wasn't even words. And I thought he was maybe talking in his sleep. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll just let it go. And then he he kept moving around. I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, clear as day, he's like, "Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm okay." And then he says, "I think I'm gonna get up and go to the bathroom." And he tried to get up, and his whole left side wasn't working, and he fell to the ground. And that's when, and I don't know where I got the information, it might have been from a public service announcement, but I asked him if he could lift up, asked him to lift up his arms, and he could not lift up his left arm. I asked him to smile. That one didn't quite work. He could still smile a bit. It hadn't quite affected his face at that point in time. But he couldn't move his left leg either. And so that's when I said, "Okay, I'm calling an ambulance." And he was like, "No, I'm just a little tired. I think I'll be okay." And I said, "No, I'm I'm calling the ambulance." And so he was kind of wedged in between the bed and a dresser. And then he started to vomit. And that's when I knew that it was probably a stroke, that it was like a concussion or something had happened to his brain.
Right.
And so when the EMS people were there, they were great. I would also say the dispatcher was great. She says, "If you have a pet, please, put that pet in a different room so that nobody gets hurt, because, pets know that things are not normal, and
Right.
they get anxious." And so I did that. I unlocked the door. The EMS folks came in. They asked questions, and they probably had Drew out of the house in about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad we had such a rapid response, and that your
Yeah.
vicious attack chihuahua didn't take one of our guys down, because that's always what it is. It's always the little ones you got to watch out for. I got scars all up and down my leg, just trying to help people. So is there anything that you would like others to know about the experience? I know Drew mentioned going to church, and I think that's a great place to spread the information that you've gotten about, not being concerned about calling 911, getting help as soon as you recognize something is wrong. So is there anything else that you would like to pass on?
I think probably as a whole, I think people are more aware when their health isn't good. But to always, those public service announcements are there for a reason, when you think about heart attack or stroke, and that we just need to pay attention and to keep those things in mind.
You're used to having them home, and now all of a sudden you're there by yourself facing all these things and the difficulty of the situation.
Yeah. And we had one
compounds it.
child in college, and the other one was still in high school. So, but that's one thing we've learned as I've been reading, and as Drew mentioned, people of all ages now have strokes. They have found, children and people in their 20s and 30s. So it's not something, and it seems to be more frequent, or maybe we're just more aware of it because, we've been through it. But yeah, it's all ages that
Right.
stroke is affecting. So we really do need to teach people to react quickly.
Right.
Because Drew's stroke happened sometime during the night and we didn't know why or when, they couldn't do TPA. And
Right.
I don't remember exactly what that means, but
Right. It's medications that they can give, but it has to be within a certain time frame.
Yeah.
And that's why when we talk about the importance of the time, if it's been within this time frame, then they can do those. They can administer TPA. But if it's outside that time frame, they cannot.
Yeah.
And so that's why we try. That's why when we have these types of calls, it's like one of the first things we ask is, when was he last seen normal? And unfortunately, if it happens in the middle of the night, it's like basically when you went to sleep, since we
Yeah.
can't pinpoint it when
Yeah.
it happened. But I think that, one thing that positive that comes from this is that you have become more educated, and that public service announcements are good, but your friends are going to listen to you more. And so the messages that you are putting out there are going to be more received better than the public service announcement, because you've experienced it, and that will go a long way towards helping people going forward as well. So from every tragedy, just like the Phoenix rises from the ashes from every unfortunate event. If we can prevent somebody else from going through it or having a better outcome, then it, to me, is worth it. I've had some no challenges like this, But you know, it's kind of the outlook that I look at. If we can help others, then it kind of makes it obviously not worthwhile, but it does make it feel like, you know, there's more good that can come from this. So we appreciate everything that you've done in education. You're trying to give people, if it's something that we as a department can do to help, please reach out and let us know. I don't mind coming by cutting grass and working in gardens. I do that all the time anyway. So we would really like to, you know, establish a relationship and keep that relationship going versus us just coming in, whisking you away, and then that being the end of it. So if there's something that we can do, please, you can reach out to me personally or through the department, and we'd be more than happy to try to help out.
Oh, great. Thank you.